Hello guys, welcome back. We've got some interesting news now, and something that's worth mentioning as well in the terms of breeding and how we label different breedings. Now, you guys would have remembered that we had a couple of huntsman spiders come into the beastie room a few months ago, and we had a Lichen Huntsman, which is the Hetropoda boei, and we had a Ziggy Stardust as well. Now, the Lichen Huntsman was an adult female, and you remember she was the one that had the odd coloured leg. Now, this is where we think that she probably lost a leg in the wild. These guys are wild caught. These weren't captive bred. They were wild caught specimens, and they're brought into the country and then sold through to the pet trade. Now, she probably lost her leg either in the wild before she was caught or in transit or whatever, but she's molted out and regrown that leg again. Now, it's very obvious, it stands out a lot. Now, we were very, very fortunate that after housing her, she actually produced an egg sac. Now, with these guys, you'll see from the photos and the footage that we will show shortly, that they carry that egg sac underneath them and they hold on to it. It's not attached to them. They actually just hold on to it and they move around and they carry it around. They go all over the place. Now, when she had this egg sac, we monitored it and we got the dates on the tank there that you can see. We first noticed the egg sac on the 10th of the 3rd, and you'll see there that it actually hatched out on the 12th of the 4th. So roughly a month, yes, roughly a month from we first noticing the eggs hatch, the egg sac, to when it actually hatched. Now, there's some interesting points that you'll see in the video, that the egg sac, although she carries it around her all the time, when it hatched, she attached it to the mesh roof and she left it hanging there, and it actually changed colour. It's been white all along, and then when it hatched, it went to brown, which is really quite extraordinary. I'm not 100% sure how that happens, but it's an amazing thing. And when you think about it, when they hang it in the wild, that will probably camouflage it against birds and things like that would have come down and made a meal of that. So it's a very, very clever part of their evolution, how they've actually done that. And you'll see also as well that the enclosure beforehand was free of any web. Now, she has gone through, I presume it's her, has gone through and laid web everywhere, and you'll see all the little spiderlings have hatched out and they are literally encasing the whole of the enclosure. Now, these are in an EXO 30 by 30 by 45, and they have filled it completely. There is babies everywhere. We also have them all over the room as well. And this is because they are absolutely minuscule. We are looking at a couple of mil for each particular spiderling. Now, these at this stage do require a very high humidity. Drying out is the biggest killer of these guys. You must keep them humid. And also food-wise, difficult to find food. So these will be primarily feeding on springtails, which, because we have a bioactive enclosure, there is no shortage of springtails in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave them as a mass group, hope that they don't all wander off into the room, because we're picking them up as we go all the time, and hopefully the majority of them will stay in there where the food is, and they'll grow and grow and grow. And then once we get a little bit of size on them, then we'll start to catch them up and we'll put them in individual pots. They will predate on each other a little bit, which is not a problem. It's often better to have, say, 50 viable youngsters come out of this sac rather than 200 dead ones because we couldn't feed them. So we're going to go with the option of keeping them in a group and see how they fare. But I hope you enjoy the shots that we've got of them, and yeah, have a look, see what you think. I'll see you shortly. Well, here we are, the Hetropoda boei, the Lichen Huntsman. How about that for camouflage? Stunning. Now, this little piece of clip we have here, this is about day 2 when we noticed she had the egg sac. You notice how cylindrical it is? Very white underneath. Now you remember when we done the rehousing of these, the unboxing, we created this lovely enclosure for her, and you'll see there that the way we've positioned the bark and what have you in there, it's allowed for this little window into the life behind the bark, so we can see what she's up to. And this is where she resides most of the day. Notice the colour of the soil there. There's good moisture content in that, and these guys really do require high humidity. So it's nice and dark in there. You notice the egg sac there. Now we can also see here as well, we were saying about the actual humidity levels for these guys, and you'll notice that the soil is very dark on the bark there, but you'll also see that everywhere is dry. So we have a high humidity content, but the enclosure itself is dry. You can see how she's holding on to that egg sac. She's using her pedipalps to hold it, and then she also grips it with her fangs as well. You can see there how she's manipulating it. You can also see that leg that's been replaced. Slightly darker one on the left there. Very pretty spider, very fast, and she's gone. These are very movement orientated, so the slightest little bit of movement and they vanish. Now we can see her here, she's on the side of the glass, and you can see now how the egg sac is actually changing in shape. You notice it's slowly becoming a little bit more fuller. This was roughly a couple of weeks in now, so she's had this probably 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. And you can see it's still a very cylindrical shape. It's almost like a disc. Now she won't feed all the time that she's carrying this. She hasn't fed at all. Now here we are now. Now look at this. This is a day or two before we actually have a hatch. And look at the way it's changed shape. It's huge now. It's more like a ball rather than a cylindrical disc. You can see there where she's hanging on with her pedipalps and her fangs. And she's up on the ceiling. And I think this is just prior to hatch. She's looking for somewhere to hang it. Look how it's changed shape. Incredible. It's taken a month to get this far. And the following morning, hey presto, look at that. You would have seen in the previous little clips of video that there was no webbing in the enclosure whatsoever. She's been busy all night long and there is web everywhere. You can also see in the top left hand corner there, that is the egg case. Look how it's changed colour. Isn't that marvellous? She's attached that to the mesh on the very top. Now these guys, I mean there is hundreds of them. Look at the size of them. All exact replicas of their parents. Now these are literally only a mil or two big. They are tiny. Very, very fragile at this stage. They will be feeding on things like springtails now. Anything that's absolutely microscopic. You'll also see there as well, these guys, it's most important that they're kept very, very humid. If they start to dry out in any way, you'll lose them, which is why the moss in the bottom is really, really useful. It traps in that moisture, evaporation comes up through the tank, and it's the ideal situation for these guys. Here we are, look at them, tiny, tiny little things. Also with the bioactive system, there is a whole host of springtails in there. Plenty of food for these little guys. Aren't they marvellous? Absolutely fantastic. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. You'll have seen from the footage there, she's quite a skittish spider, and you'll see also from the enclosure as well that she likes a very, very humid environment, and that's the beauty of the bioactive enclosure. It will give us the environment that we require. And you'll find all the huntsmans are like this. They all like that type of enclosure. Now, one of the things that we mentioned in the very, very beginning was an interesting thing about how we go about, how we term our breeding. Now with these guys, this has not been a captive bred spider. So this was a wild caught spider. It's coming from the wild, it's been imported in and then sold on through the pet trade. And we've been lucky enough that we've managed to acquire a female spider that was already inseminated in the wild. So that makes our babies captive hatched. They are not captive bred. Now I see this quite a lot. There'll be people, you know, people claiming that, oh, we've bred this and we've bred that, when quite often or not, they're not actually bred. They've actually come in as a wild caught specimen that is already pregnant. So that is classed as a captive hatch. So we can't actually, although we can hopefully at the end of the day claim that we've raised these babies well and done everything in our power to make them right, we didn't actually breed them. And it's very, very important. If you're doing your spiders, especially if you're selling spiders bits and pieces, it's very important that you state the fact that, you know, these are captive hatched and not captive bred. So if we physically put our spiders together and we physically pair them, mate them, then we can claim them to be captive bred. But in this case, they're captive hatched. I hope that clarifies that. And we get often asked many, many times by different people that, you know, what's the differences and all the rest of it. And this is exactly what it is. So although it's still a success, we can't claim the full outcome. We've not actually bred them ourselves. So hopefully we'll get some babies. We've got the babies, we'll rear them on, and then if we can then in turn breed those babies and get a successful hatch, then we can claim to be captive bred spiders, and we can claim to add them to our list of successes that we've actually managed to breed. But until then, they're captive hatched. Well, I hope that makes sense of all of that. And just a little one of my little bugbears, you know, sort of niggles away at me. So we've got to be honest. We must be honest. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you found it all very, very interesting. And we'll follow on with the story, and we'll see how they go. And hopefully there'll be some more successes in the future with these guys. And we'll just see what happens. Fingers crossed. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. And don't forget, be calm, be gentle, and love your spiders. I'll see you again soon, guys.